This happened about a year ago, right at the end of summer. I'd taken a week off from work to recharge, and my cousin Lisa invited me to spend a few days at her parents' beach house on the Outer Banks in North Carolina. It was the kind of house you see in magazines' huge wraparound porch, floor-to-ceiling windows facing the ocean, a private dune path straight to the sand. They'd owned it for years, but hadn't had time to use it that summer, so it was sitting empty. Lisa was supposed to come down with me, but last-minute work stuff forced her to cancel. I'd already packed, already asked off, and honestly, I didn't want to waste the break. So I went alone, figuring a solo beach trip might be exactly what I needed to clear my head. The first couple days were great. I slept in, read on the deck, went for runs on the beach. It was so peaceful, it almost felt fake. Every night I fell asleep to the sound of the ocean, with just the faintest breeze rattling the window screens. But on the third night, something felt off. I'd stayed out on the deck later than usual, just enjoying the salty air, when I heard what sounded like footsteps coming from the side of the house. At first, I thought maybe it was one of the neighbors, or someone walking their dog along the beach access path. But the sound was steady, heavy, and too close. I turned off the porch light so I wouldn't be as visible, and I listened. I swear I heard someone moving through the side yard, right next to the bushes along the fence. There were no voices, no dog leash clinking, nothing, just slow, deliberate footsteps. I tried to convince myself it was a deer or even the wind moving something around, but my gut told me otherwise. Eventually, the sound stopped, and after 10 minutes of sitting frozen in the dark, I convinced myself I was being paranoid. I locked the doors and went to bed around 11 that night. I had the most vivid nightmare I've ever experienced. I dreamt I was lying in bed, unable to move, and there was a tall, faceless person standing in the corner of the room, swaying back and forth like they were struggling to keep upright. In the dream, I couldn't scream, couldn't move, couldn't even close my eyes. The thing in the corner just watched me. When I finally jolted awake, I was drenched in sweat. It was pitch black in the room, but I could still hear the ocean outside, calm and steady. I tried to tell myself it was just a nightmare, but there was this smell in the air, something sour and wet, like a dirty towel left in the sun too long. I got up, turned on the lights, checked every room. Nothing was out of place, no windows open, no doors unlocked. I chalked it up to stress and tried to go back to sleep, though I left a small lamp on. The next morning, I decided to get out of the house for a while. I packed up my things and went into town to grab breakfast and maybe wander around some shops. When I came back around noon, I noticed something that made my skin crawl. In the thin layer of sand on the back deck, there were footprints. They weren't mine. I'd been wearing shoes every time I stepped out there. These were larger, wider, and deeply imprinted, like someone had stood there for a while. My stomach flipped. I tried to reason it away, maybe an old print from a previous guest. But there had been a storm a few days earlier, and I'd cleaned the deck afterward. These were new. I decided to check the security cameras. There were a couple cheap ones set up around the house, connected to an old monitor in the hallway closet. I pulled up the overnight recording, fast-forwarding through hours of nothing but darkness and swaying dune grass. But around 2:15 a.m., I saw it. A person, tall and thin, walked across the back deck. They moved strangely, almost like they were injured, their shoulders jerking side to side as they limped along. They went right up to the sliding glass door and just stood there, facing inside, watching. For at least 10 minutes, they didn't move, didn't knock, didn't try the handle, just stood there. Then they turned and disappeared off camera. I felt like I was going to throw up. That was around the same time I'd woken up from that dream. I couldn't help but wonder if I'd somehow sensed them outside. I called Lisa in a panic. She told me to leave the house and wait somewhere safe while she phoned the local police. When the officers arrived, they did a sweep of the property and checked all the locks. They couldn't find anyone. Nothing had been broken, no signs of forced entry. They suggested maybe it was a lost tourist or someone drunk wandering the wrong way on the beach. But that didn't explain the way he moved or how he stood staring through the door for so long. Without trying to get in, I left that afternoon and never went back alone. Lisa's family eventually installed a new alarm system, but the thought of what could have happened if I hadn't locked the doors still makes me sick. I've stayed in plenty of beach houses since then, but I always double-check every window, every lock, and I never, ever sleep with the curtains open.